The African savanna awakens beneath a rising sun that paints the horizon in hues of molten gold and dusty pink. A warm breeze glides across the endless expanse of tawny grasses, carrying the dry scent of earth and the faint musk of grazing herds. Acacia trees stand scattered like silent sentinels, their umbrella crowns silhouetted against the glowing sky. This is a land where life and death are bound together in a constant dance of speed and survival. And among all the creatures that call this place home, one stands unrivaled as nature's embodiment of pure velocity, the cheetah. A solitary female cheetah crouches low in the tall grass, her amber eyes fixed on the far side of an open plain. Morning light shimmers along her sleek, spotted coat, a natural camouflage that blends perfectly with the dappled patterns of grass and shadow. Every muscle in her body is taut with purpose. She has not eaten in 2 days, and the long fast gnaws at her strength. Yet hunger sharpens her resolve. This hunt must succeed. In the distance, a herd of Thompson's gazelles grazes cautiously. Their large ears flick at the slightest sound, constantly scanning for danger. Among them are the very young and the old, the inexperienced and the weary. For a predator like the cheetah, one vulnerable life is all it takes to break the delicate balance. But the gazelles are not without advantage. They too are masters of speed and alertness. Only vigilance keeps them alive. The cheetah inches forward, her paws placing each step with the precision of a practiced hunter. The grass brushes silently against her belly. Time stretches. She must choose her target carefully. A strong adult will be hard to bring down. A youngster might be too quick to dart back into the protection of the herd. Finally, her gaze settles on a medium-sized gazelle lingering on the edge of the group, momentarily distracted by a tuft of fresh green shoots. Opportunity is rare and fleeting, and in this brief hesitation, the cheetah senses the thin crack where survival tilts. The savanna grows hushed. Even the birds seem to hold their breath. A single heartbeat passes, then another. The cheetah coils like a drawn bow, her spine arching, tail twitching to balance the explosive force she is about to unleash. With an almost imperceptible shift of weight, she commits. In an instant, the plain erupts with motion. The cheetah bursts from cover in a tawny blur, her claws digging into the dry soil for traction. Gazelles explode into chaos, ears flatten, hooves strike the earth like drums. Dust swirls into the air, but the cheetah is already closing the distance. Acceleration is her signature weapon. From a standstill, she surges to 60 kilometers per hour in just 3 strides, each one stretching more than 6 meters. Her spine flexes like a coiled spring, lengthening her reach and storing kinetic energy with every bound. The chosen gazelle bolts, zigzagging in desperate, elegant arcs. Gazelles are astonishing athletes in their own right. Their limbs, long and spring-loaded, send them bounding with a power born of survival. A sharp sidestep could mean the difference between life and death. Yet the cheetah anticipates every feint. Her tail acts as a rudder, flicking left and right to counterbalance high-speed turns. She leans into each curve with fluid grace, her eyes locked on the fleeing target. The chase becomes a spectacle of raw physics. Each breath the cheetah takes floods her lungs with oxygen, fueling her muscles for the sprint. Her heart thunders at more than 200 beats per minute. Heat builds in her bloodstream as her body pushes to the limit of endurance. Within seconds, she has reached her maximum speed, over 100 kilometers per hour. No other land animal can match this burst of sheer velocity. The gazelle senses the predator's approach and springs upward in a dramatic starting leap, hoping to confuse her pursuer. The cheetah compensates instantly, adjusting her stride without slowing. Dust clouds trail behind them like smoke. The world narrows to a single breathless contest, speed against speed, will against will. But speed alone is not enough. The cheetah knows that endurance is her weakest link. Her sprint is a burning fuse, She has only 20, perhaps 30 seconds before her body overheats. Every moment counts. She shortens the gap to 10 meters, then 5. The gazelle's flanks heave with effort. Muscles strain. A final desperate jink to the left buys a heartbeat more, but the cheetah reads the move before it happens. With one last explosive surge, she swings a forepaw forward, claws unsheathed, and hooks the gazelle's hind leg. The impact sends the smaller animal tumbling in a cloud of ochre dust. Momentum carries the cheetah past her quarry for a split second before she pivots, lunging with jaws wide. Teeth find the delicate throat, cutting off air in a swift, practiced grip. The world slows. The gazelle kicks once, twice, then stills as the oxygen fades. The chase is over. Silence settles like a soft blanket over the plain, broken only by the distant calls of birds and the rustle of wind through grass. The cheetah releases her hold, sides heaving with exertion. Foam flecks her muzzle. Steam rises faintly from her coat, heat dissipating into the morning air. Now comes the pause. The cheetah lies still beside her prize, every muscle trembling from the effort. Her body must cool before she can eat. Panting heavily, she surveys the horizon for scavengers. Hyenas, lions, and jackals all patrol these lands, ready to steal another predator's hard-won meal. Time is precious. If she lingers too long, the fruits of this perilous chase may be lost. Gradually, her breathing slows. She drags the gazelle into the partial cover of a nearby shrub, using what little shade it offers. The kill is fresh, the reward for patience and precision. Her cubs, hidden a safe distance away, will soon feed on the rich protein that ensures their survival. Life flows forward, one successful hunt at a time. Above them, the sun climbs higher, burning away the morning cool. Insects resume their buzzing chorus. Vultures wheel in widening circles overhead, drawn by the scent of blood. The savanna exhales and continues its endless cycle of life and death. Each moment a delicate equation of risk and reward. For the cheetah, today is victory, hard-earned and fleeting. She has staked everything on speed, and speed has delivered. Yet she is not just a creature of motion. She is an artisan of the hunt, relying on timing, stealth, and instinct passed down through generations. Every successful chase is a triumph of evolution's fine-tuned design. The gazelle, too, played its part in this eternal drama. Its keen senses, its bursts of agility, its desperate zigzags, all are testaments to a life shaped by constant threat. Even in death, it feeds the land, sustaining predator and scavenger alike. Nothing is wasted in nature's great ledger. As the heat of midday deepens and shadows shrink, the cheetah finally begins to feed. Her jaws work methodically, stripping meat from bone with efficiency born of necessity. Nearby, the air shimmers with mirage-like waves, and the distant herds continue to graze, ever watchful, ever ready. Life on the savanna is relentless. Each day demands everything from those who dwell here, from the lightning-fast hunter to the vigilant prey. The hunt will repeat again and again, as long as grass grows and the rains return. Cheetahs will crouch in the tall grass. Gazelles will bolt across open plains. And the eternal dance of pursuit will continue under the vast African sky. For now, one hunt has ended, but the cycle endures, a living testament to the beauty, power, and delicate balance of the natural world. The ancient blood-soaked soil of the Kopje knew the scent of both species intimately. For generations, the leopards had been the shadowy arbiters of death, their silent passage through the tall grass a constant chilling prayer for the baboons. But prayers had curdled into defiance. The hook came not with a scream, but with the sickening wet crack of bone. A young brash leopard named Shani had gotten sloppy. He'd targeted a juvenile baboon straying too far from the troop, but his pounce was a fraction too slow. From the granite bluffs above, a grizzled, one-eared mandrill named Kaya saw it all. Her bark was not one of alarm, but of command. A dozen massive, dog-faced males led by her lieutenant, a brute named Jabari, descended not as panicked prey, but as a coordinated killing swarm. They didn't flee Shani, they surrounded him. Jabari, with canines like ivory daggers, seized the leopard's hind leg and wrenched it with primal force. The crack echoed across the kopje, a declaration of war more potent than any roar. Shani's shriek of agony was the first official casualty of a conflict that had been simmering for a century. This was no longer a predator-prey dynamic. This was a war for territory, for supremacy, for the very right to breathe the dry, dusty air. The baboons, under Kaya's shrewd leadership, had grown tired of cowering. They had learned. They used tools, sharpened sticks and heavy stones. They fought as a legion, their strength in numbers forging a new, terrifying power. The leopards, creatures of solitary grace and ambush, were thrown into disarray. Their queen, a magnificent spotted matriarch named Nyx, understood the shift instantly. The old ways were dead. This would be a war of attrition, of brutality, of extermination. The first major battle was not an ambush, but an assault. Under the cover of a moonless night, Kaya mobilized her entire troop. They moved not as individual foragers, but as a dark, chittering tide flowing through the ravine towards Leopard's Crag, a sacred place of caves where Nyx and her kin raised their cubs. The leopards were ready. Nyx had scent-marked the perimeter, her musk a potent warning. As the first baboons scrambled up the rocky face, shadows detached themselves from the stone. A male leopard, his spots blending into the night, exploded from a crevice. His claws, like curved scalpels, opened the throat of a baboon sentinel before the creature could even cry out. The body tumbled down the rocks, a silent herald of the carnage to come. But the baboons did not break. They pressed on, their numbers overwhelming. Jabari, a mountain of muscle and fury, confronted the leopard. He took a deep gash across his shoulder, the pain fueling his rage. He slammed the cat against the cliff face, his powerful jaws clamping down on its neck not to suffocate, but to crush. The sound was gruesome, a crunching of vertebrae that silenced the leopard's snarls forever. The baboons swarmed over the body, their victory screams tearing the night apart. They had taken the outer crag. Nyx, from her high vantage point, watched her kin die. A cold fury settled in her golden eyes. She gave a low, guttural call, a signal to retreat deeper into the cave system. This was a tactical withdrawal. She would let the baboons have the outer rock. She knew its vulnerabilities. Dawn revealed the cost. The rocks were slick with blood, both spotted golden fur and coarse gray hair matted together in the dust. The baboons, emboldened, celebrated by tearing apart the carcass of the fallen leopard, a profound desecration in the big cat's culture. Kaya watched, her one good eye narrowed. She knew this was only the beginning. Nyx was a strategist, not a brute. The leopard's retaliation was swift and surgical. They abandoned direct confrontation and became ghosts of the kopje. They struck at dawn, plucking baboons who strayed to drink from the watering hole. They struck at dusk, snatching the slow and the old from the edges of the troop. They became masters of psychological warfare. Nyx herself once dragged a freshly killed baboon to the base of the baboon's sleeping trees and left it as a grisly centerpiece, its eyes gouged out. The message was clear. We see you, even in your safest places. The war stretched on, a cycle of brutal skirmishes and terrifying lone kills. The baboons' numbers began to dwindle. The constant fear wore on them. Jabari, once a pillar of strength, was now a mosaic of scars, his movements slower, his rage tempered by exhaustion. Kaya grew gaunt, the weight of leadership carving new lines into her face. She knew they couldn't win a war of stealth. They had to draw Nyx out, force a final conclusive battle. Her plan was a masterpiece of manipulation and sacrifice. She ordered the troop to feign a mass exodus from their primary grove, making a show of heading towards a distant, less defensible forest. It was a gamble of their entire society. She left behind only a small, seemingly vulnerable contingent, the mothers and the newest, most precious infants, guarded by a handful of juveniles. It was bait, and she knew Nyx would not be able to resist. Nyx took it. Seeing the troop's apparent retreat, she gathered every able-bodied leopard for a decisive strike. They would eradicate the next generation and break the baboon's spirit forever. As the leopards flowed into the grove, their silence absolute, the juvenile baboons shrieked and scrambled up the trees, clustering around the mothers. Nyx led the charge, a vision of lethal beauty, her muscles coiling for the kill. It was then that Kaya's trap was sprung. The retreating army had circled back in utter silence. They emerged from the tall grass, from behind termite mounds, from the opposite side of the grove. They had the leopards surrounded. The element of surprise, the leopard's greatest weapon, had been turned against them. The final battle was not a fight. It was a slaughterhouse. The grove became a cacophony of shrieks, roars, and the wet, tearing sounds of flesh yielding. A young leopard was pulled down by 3 baboons, who systematically ripped its limbs from its body. Jabari, ignoring a deep wound in his side, found Nyx. They were king and queen of this bloody chessboard, and their clash was inevitable. Nyx was faster, her claws a blur. She opened Jabari's chest, but the baboon's pain seemed irrelevant. He grabbed her, his immense strength pinning her for a critical second. He didn't try to bite her neck. He sank his teeth into her spine, just above her shoulders. Nyx arched, a horrific scream tearing from her throat. Kaya, from a lower branch, saw her chance. She dropped onto the struggling leopard, a sharpened stone in her hand, and with a final grunting effort, drove it into Nyx's eye. The queen's body went rigid, then slack. With their matriarch dead, the remaining leopard's will broke. They turned and fled, melting back into the shadows from whence they came, their spirits shattered. Silence descended, thick and heavy with the stench of blood and death. The baboons had won. They stood panting amidst the carnage, surrounded by the corpses of their enemies and their own fallen kin. Jabari slumped against a tree, his life bleeding out into the roots. Kaya limped to his side. There was no victory cheer, no celebration. The cost was etched on the ground around them. They had secured their future, but the price was a generation of their past. The Kopje was theirs, but it was a kingdom of ghosts, its soil forever fertilized by the blood of both baboon and leopard. The war was over, but the peace that followed was as cold and sharp as a leopard's tooth.